All right, so every Tuesday, we bring you our new financial forecast segment. We're joined by Tim Fitzwilliams of Fitzwilliams Financial, as we are every Tuesday. Welcome back, Tim. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Now, we'll start off, it's still early in the year. We're still in January. What are some mistakes people tend to make this early in the year to try to set themselves up?
Absolutely, Connor. I think some mistakes are people get excited because it's the new year, so they start looking at a lot of headlines and trying to see new flashy things, and then they start trying to time the market. And that's not a good thing. You don't want to try to time the market. You want to have fiduciary advice, right, from people that are going to put your interest ahead of their own to help you navigate the market, so you're not trying to dive in just because you saw something cool or you saw a fad or a trend.
I want to stay with that because I know people will really try to hit that. Maybe they have seen it happen once somewhere else. Why is it so important not to try to time the market?
Right.
Why is that so difficult to do?
Past performance doesn't indicate future performance, right? That's a huge rule with us, right? So it's difficult because most people don't have the proper information. A headline or an article or something you saw on social media is not good enough, right? You have to have subscriptions to professional service models. You need to understand those models. And so it's a lot of education behind it to really diagnose and understand what you're looking at to make an informed decision on whether or not you should make a change to your portfolio.
Okay, and as we wade into 2026, what is that economic outlook for everyday consumers, especially talking borrowing, credit cards, mortgages, those sorts of things?
Yeah, so the idea, and we'll find out tomorrow, right? But when the Fed meets, the idea is that they're trying to get back to a non-restrictive model. Right now, it's a little restrictive, and so that means it's harder to get money. Well, when we get to a non-restrictive model, we get back to more of a normalcy, then things will be easier. So easier to get credit cards, easier to buy a house, get a loan for a car, things like that. So overall, that's better for the economy.
Yeah, you mentioned the Fed managing inflation, one of their big goals, one of their big designs. It's cooled here a little bit, right? But there are warning signs that could recelerate early in 2026. Why is that? What are we looking at?
Well, look, there's always things that can increase inflation or decrease it. Just because it happens doesn't mean that it's going to have a negative impact. I'll give you an example. If you take a seesaw, right, and you have something that affects it, like unemployment, right? But at the same time, right now, production is up, and that's because of AI. So it's balancing it out, where normally you would be kind of concerned that unemployment is up.
Right.
So it's about keeping a good balance. Just because there's an indicator that is maybe kind of starting to show signs doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. It's okay to have some inflationary type things happen. Right. And that's just keeping a balance.
Especially with constant new factors like AI, as you said, managing that stuff.
That's difficult. A huge new one. We're seeing a big increase in production.
Yeah, well,
and I think we're going to continue to see that.
I think so. Tim, always a pleasure to have you here on Tuesdays. We'll see you in a week.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, the financial forecast, that's every Tuesday in our 4 p.m. news. If you have questions you want answered, email us at financialforecast@13newsnow.com.